Oh my goodness, can you believe it? We are already at episode number 7. And believe it or not, that's 3 away from 10. So, anyways, in this episode, I've yet to think of a name for it, but don't worry, it's going to have a name when I upload it, obviously. But, anyways, in this episode, I talk with Beth Harrell, who is a registered dietitian with her MSRD, LD, and the CEDRD-S. So, when you got that many certs and titles and degrees, you're doing something. You're doing something right. So, anyways, she's a master's leveled registered dietitian, nutritionist, and certified eating disorder specialist. And she specializes in helping adults and older teens work through the pendulum of dieting and overeating that results from repeated attempts to find that quote-unquote perfect plan. Me and Beth have a really awesome conversation, and it was super fun recording it, and it was super fun going through and editing it just now. And honestly, I realized, you know what, that was smooth. It flowed. Like, honestly, I didn't even edit anything really. So yeah, this is a super cool episode, super helpful, super fun. I'm inspired just re-listening to it, and I think I've said that in previous episodes, but I'm sorry. Sometimes I just walk away from these conversations just feeling good and educated and motivated. So I hope you too will feel good and educated and motivated. So yeah, let's listen on in, and I hope you enjoy. It is for me, but a secret part of me though is kind of hoping I do have it, because then that means this is kind of as bad as it's going to be for me. So
right, to get it over with.
Yeah.
Truly.
The guessing game and the ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we are officially recording, and thank you for coming on. I'm so excited. We've been going back and forth now for a few weeks, and we finally made it happen. So
Yes.
This is awesome. Can you tell me and the listeners a little bit about what it is that you do?
Well, I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I started my career in eating disorders back in the early 90s in an inpatient program. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and worked there for a while, and then just moved into kind of private practice and working with children at the Children's Hospital with disordered eating and eating disorders, and kind of am currently certification director for an International Professionals Association of Eating Disorders, and we certify nurses, doctors, dietitians, therapists, and other credentials around the world. So I wear a lot of hats, and my favorite part is working with folks who have been what I call kind of beat up by dieting. Year after year, trying different things, finding out that it doesn't work, and trying to just quiet the chatter that's in their head. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's all so incredible, and it's also so important because I feel like eating disorders are just kind of blowing up. I don't know any stats behind that. You would maybe be able to shed more light on that than I could, but I feel like this is more and more of a growing issue, especially with just the rise of social media and all these standards. And it doesn't help that a lot of people are also, portraying these standards that aren't even real for them because they're edited, or, they got those in unhealthy ways. It's just kind of like this self-destructive cycle almost.
Absolutely. And during the pandemic, we have noticed that eating disorder cases have doubled, more than doubled actually. But over the years, you're absolutely right. With social media and people putting forth their image, the image that they're portraying, and then comparing themselves with others, it definitely has added to some of the anxiety that having a certain body, living in a certain body in this world, can lead to disordered eating and attempts to change that body.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess one thing that we could probably both agree on is that fad diets are a big factor in this. And I know briefly on the phone when we spoke the other day, we touched on that. So what are your thoughts on fad diets? Because I sure got some thoughts, but I want to hear yours.
Oh, yeah. Well, my gosh, I tend to say that diet diets kind of come and go in 10 or 15 year cycles. And so back when I started, fat-free diet was the big dieting. Everyone was doing these fat-free, like low fat diets. And we learned that affected the neurological development of children and moods and everything, from estrogen, testosterone, for males and females, just in terms of mood and anxiety. So that was really popular. And what kind of happened after that is people wanted something sweet. So that different, like Snackwells and Pepperidge Farm, they made cookies and cakes and things that were fat-free. So people would eat a whole sleeve of cookies knowing that wouldn't go against their fat number. So then it shifted to lower, then sugars were the bad guy, which I think we're still in that category. But it shifts over from Atkins, which is a higher protein. And then we have the keto. I mean, you could do a Google search. If I did that right now on diets, how many would pop up? Billions of different things, like the 24-hour fast or the hot dog diet, or whatever.
It's a thing?
It was hot dog and banana.
Lord.
You can eat hot dogs and bananas as often as you wanted throughout the day. This was years ago, but again, so fad diets come and go. And right now, take your pick. There's the Whole30 and Paleo and the ketosis diet, to name a few.
Okay. And do you think there are any benefits that could come from some of those fad diets, or do you think they should all just be avoided? Because I have seen some stuff about keto that does seem, it's not for me. It's definitely not for me. I don't have a true reason to be on it. Like, I'm not diabetic, but do you feel like some of these diets, if gone about the right way, could have any benefit?
That is like the question of the hour of the year. So for I want to say ketotic diets, because it produces a ketone reaction in your body, but that can actually be used for epilepsy, right, in kids. And so that is for sure, it's not a fad diet, it's a medical nutrition therapy type diet in that position. When I'm saying diets and different fad diets, it's really the counting, weighing, and measuring. So people, if they can do that and feel not crazy in their head, then it's whatever that they're comfortable with. You know, if they can find balance and include some pleasurable foods, as well as whatever they consider to be, you know, some people want only whole foods, or some move into a vegan category. And so if it nourishes their body and it doesn't make them crazy in their head, then counting, weighing, and measuring may not be a problem. For 95% plus people who do this counting, weighing, measuring, and I'm saying that kind of all together because that's a external guide for what your body is actually telling you it wants and needs. So over time, 95% of the people will be able to either lose weight or improve their blood pressure or improve some things. But then after 2 to 4 years, they've either gained the weight back, they're overeating again, and it kind of is that pendulum of being too careful, too controlled, into then sort of like saying it's the Last Supper and I'm just going to eat everything I can. Tomorrow is another day and I'll start over.
Seriously.
So, yeah, fad diets, I don't want to say that there's a place for them because the stats aren't good for people for any kind of a diet that's really restrictive in nature that you're counting, weighing, measuring. But there are a select few people who can do that without problems.
I was not one of them. I have so many memories of just being so beyond stressed with calorie counting. I would do it in books, or I would use my Fitness Pal, and I would get everything to a T. If I chewed gum, I would put in the 5 calories from the gum. And then it got to the point where I saw food as, it's so cliche, but I saw it as numbers and not food. And then the more I cared about the calories, the less I cared about the quality of those calories.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was some days where I remember one day, all I ate basically all day long was like probably 2-3 boxes of chocolate chip Fiber One bars. That was all I ate. And it's like funny, but it's also super depressing because it was like, I was like, this isn't like, there were times where I was like worried for myself. I was like, I'm not eating real food. Like I am eating
Yeah.
like 1,200 calories a day, 800 calories a day, and it's not quality food. I'm just
Mm.
or I'll be like, oh, I want this ice cream, this little thing of this, and then next thing I know, I spent all my calories on ice cream or a cookie, so now I'm left like starving myself for the rest of the day.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. And then who knows what happened? We don't have to go into that here, but what happens to your digestive system if you eat so many fiber one bars? Like
Oh
there's
Lord.
artificial fiber in there. So the MyFitnessPal, I have a story about that. And of course, my clients give me the best stories, but, and the saddest.
Yeah.
One who was getting ready to be married and was out to eat with her future in-laws and that group, and had a glass of wine and just ran into the bathroom to make sure to include that in her MyFitnessPal so that she would know how to eat the rest of the
Ugh.
day. So when you said MyFitnessPal, and I'm not calling out any particular recording,
Right.
diary, food diary, whatever, they're all what you said is that you convert food into numbers and it changes the whole relationship.
Exactly. And so, we just talked about counting your calories. How do you feel about just food journaling in general? Because I've heard
Mm.
it's a really good tool, and I feel like I have a better relationship with food. Not to use
Mm.
the word relationship, but you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like when I record what I eat, it kind of helps me feel more accountable, and I just feel better about myself and
Sure.
more on track, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's mindful. And when I forget what you said. It was record. Hmm. Using a food diary, basically recording can help you look at your patterns. Oh,
Mm.
relationship. That's what you said. It is okay to say relationship with food because we all have one from
Mhm.
the time we're born, and being nourished and then stopping crying and then realizing that that comes from an adult and having attachments to adults and then having attachments to food from those adults. And then, of course, we're coming into holiday seasons, and
Oh boy.
every season has the emotional attachment to family, friends, traditions, and food. So yeah, you do have a relationship with food, and documenting those or writing them down can be wonderful. Like really, there's a process called intuitive eating that is considered revolutionary. It's been around for about 25 years, but it's listening to your body. And so that's that relationship of what is my body asking for? Are my blood sugars low? Is that why I'm feeling grumpy or lack of focus? And so when you're journaling those things, you're actually kind of saying, okay, I notice when I have this for breakfast, or if I skip breakfast, this is how I feel. Or if I work out more than I'm actually taking in the efforts of weight loss, that this is how I feel, and I end up eating more. So it can really just give patterns to people. I encourage people to journal about their food.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like you say, with those patterns, I feel like sometimes too, it can work in the reverse as well. Okay, why am I wanting to eat a ton of ice cream right now? Like, what am I feeling in this moment that's making me want this? Like, I have to ask myself that sometimes, like, wait, am I stressed? Am I feeling lonely? And I'm
Mhm.
realizing, like, sometimes the days where I want sugar the most or like junk food the most is when I'm stressed or I'm feeling like I have no one to hang out with or I just
Yeah.
want something to occupy me, and be there with me,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so there's Dr. Anita Johnston wrote a book called Eating in the Light of the Moon. And she uses a lot of folklore and storytelling to kind of bring food into the picture. And when people are thinking, I just really want a ton of ice cream, she describes like tank A and tank B, that we all have two tanks. And that tank A is our physical tank. It's how many calories we need, how much fluid we need, how much sunlight, how much sleep, how much, our physical body needs. And then tank B is our emotional tank. And that's the tank that sometimes needs to be filled up. And we tend to try to fill that up with food, which isn't the full answer, right? But you're trying to figure out. And you don't have to figure out exactly what is causing you to go for the ice cream. My first thing as a nutritionist is to wonder out loud with my clients, have you had enough sugar during the day? Have you had enough? Our bodies are mammals, and they require a certain amount of carbohydrates, protein, and fat, regardless of what your brain or MyFitnessPal tells you. So just this morning, I was on a session with a college guy who was doing, talking about how much he was binging. Okay.
Mhm.
So we looked at what he was eating. It's all fat free. And so fat in the diet does not mean fat on your body. It's a
Right.
nutrient. It's not a body part. It's a nutrient, and it actually helps with your brain matter. It helps with satiety or satisfaction in between meals. And then yesterday I was on a call with a woman who said, I'm just craving these cookies and I can't talk myself out of them. And what I told her surprised her. We looked at what she was eating. She started her morning with Ezekiel bread. And carbs have been demonized right now as the bad guy. And our bodies, our mammalian bodies, we are mammals, that
Right.
it requires X amount of energy. And you can your body tries not very efficiently to convert fat and protein like muscle mass to fuel the brain, but it doesn't do that very well. So when we looked at that, that's how she started her day after a long hike. And then lunch had barely any, maybe a quarter cup of croutons on her salad. And then dinner was chili. So the kidney beans actually have some carb in them, but a body needs the daily recommended intake of carbs minimum for an adult is 135. And that
Right.
shocks a lot of people. So what she's doing, of course she's going to crave cookies or something really sweet. If you're diabetic and your blood sugars go low, you're ready to pass out because they're so low, what do people give you? It's either juice or cola or a hard candy, because that shoots it up quickly. So your brain is going to crave a quick response, and that's ice cream and cookies and sugar.
Yeah. And I feel like too, it takes time to kind of figure out, what your body in particular needs more than maybe someone else's body. Like some people because it's hard. For a while I was like, crap, man, do I do tons and tons of, good fats? Do I do no carbs? Do I do this? Do I do that? And then like, I just realized like, you know what? This person here is blogging about how this works for them. No carbs works for their body. This is the best they've ever felt. And then this person over here is saying that they love carbs and they have oatmeal in the morning and they have bran homemade waffles with like, berries. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to eat good, healthy food.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can compare yourself, but you don't know what they're like offline either.
Ooh, yeah.
That's the other thing, is that when I was working with teenagers in high school and they would say, I see this person doesn't eat lunch at school, or they eat anything that they want and they can stay thin. And it's like, you have no idea what they do when they get home from school. I mean, in the doors of my office, people can fall apart and they look perfect in the world. Like, or not perfect. I don't love that word.
Right.
What I
I know
mean.
what you mean.
Yeah, they look like they've got it all together and they're eating everything right, and so going back to that mammal idea, if you're comparing yourself, it might be too about their taste preference. Like somebody may just really love oatmeal and they're going to own their carbs, and whether it's oatmeal that has brown sugar on it and butter, because that's what they like the flavor of, then that's what's nourishing their body in that moment. Or whether it's steel cut oats plain, but you're getting peanut butter or some other whole fat that feels more comfortable to them. But comparing one person to another would be really, like you said, you're just going to eat. Just choose what you eat, and it's better to choose. Here's another example. A girl, this was many, many years ago, but she was a young dancer and went out to eat with her boyfriend, and he ordered a bacon blue cheeseburger and she ordered a salad, of course. And when she got home, because she wasn't satisfied with that salad, she said, Beth, I just started at the top of my pantry and started eating everything from top to bottom and then repeated. She said, if I just would have ordered what I wanted and had
Mm.
a smaller portion until I was satisfied, I probably would not have done that in the pantry. And she's right. I mean, it's worth that experiment for anyone to try an experiment of, let me order what I want, whether it has carbs or fat or butter or whatever, and eat until you're satisfied with it, which may surprise people. Sometimes they may crave like salad or sushi, but they don't have to because they're not on any diet or anything that tells them. It's just they're listening to their body.
Yeah, and sometimes I think when you have that restriction, it's like, now I want it even more,
Yes.
you know?
Oh my
Like,
gosh. Yeah, I talk about like putting broccoli and ice cream on the same playing field. And I know that your listeners can't see, but I'm holding my hands side by side. If you put ice cream on a pedestal, then you're lifting ice cream up. I shouldn't, I can't, I shouldn't, I can't. And then the minute you do, it's like the floodgates open and you can't stop, right? So if you can say, yeah, they're not nutritionally equal, but do we always eat for just for nutrition? Sometimes we eat for pleasure and sometimes we eat for satisfaction, and diets, weighing, counting, measuring specific things that are external or in your head don't fulfill those needs. So when you put ice cream on the same level as broccoli or kale, you're allowing yourself to choose broccoli or kale when you want it just as much as you're allowing yourself to choose the ice cream when you want it. There was one word that you said even before when we were talking about comparing, and it was good fats.
yes.
Yeah. So what do you consider good fats?
Like avocado, salmon, real butter. I know that some people don't agree with that, but
There
like
you go.
like bacon, I'll sometimes I won't go crazy. I'm not going to make like a keto taco where you see it's like fried cheese
Yeah.
with like bacon in it. But like if I want some bacon with my eggs and my Ezekiel bread, like an avocado, I'll do it.
Right. So that's super important. When you said, when you said bacon, of course, if you're on the keto diet, then you're going to do bacon, and that's fine. Or if you are vegetarian, then that's not going to work for you. And avocado has gotten a lot of popularity, and thanks to good marketing, but it's also a whole food and people can feel good about it.
Mm.
So one of the first things I try to do, and this is so hard in our culture, is help people separate good, bad, healthy, unhealthy when it relates to describing food or bodies. That
Yeah, that's so
food
hard.
or bodies. It is so hard. We catch ourselves all the time saying, avocados are a good fat, butter's a bad fat. Well, why is it? Well, they both have, one's a plant-based and one's animal-based, so that's different. But does that mean that one's bad and one's not? I had a gentleman who was on the keto diet, and he would fix all of his bacon on Sunday for the week and eat it all on Sunday.
Oh,
So
no.
it's one of those things that he was very fit,
Right.
but just had that craziness about eating that he should or shouldn't. That's another thing. When we're talking good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, the shoulds and the shouldn'ts are things to be aware of when you're referring to foods as well.
Interesting. And so I have a question. So as I've mentioned to you on the phone the other day, I've dealt with a lot of binge eating in my life. Thankfully I have it way more under control now. A quote unquote binge for me now is light years away from an actual binge for me, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, on and off dealing with that for years. Didn't even know I was binge eating for a while. But and over time, when you become more aware, you start to kind of learn your triggers and the things that kind of make you on edge. And when you're being too strict to where you're just gonna, like you said, the floodgates will just open. But my question is, so I know I'm not the only one. I know people listening deal with this, but I struggle a lot with sugar addiction, and I'd really like to hear your opinion on this because I've gone back and forth. Like, I shouldn't just cut sugar out altogether because I can't handle it. Like, I've tried so many times to just be okay just having one bowl of ice cream or one shake at Chick-fil-A or just one cupcake at work. And it always, even if I can do good with a balance for maybe even 3-4 months, it always like comes around and gets me to where next thing I know, like I'm anxiously buying 3 Hershey bars at the checkout counter at Walmart, like before I leave, or like, you know, like, or I leave work to like go off and sneak and get something sweet from the store and eat it, shut the door of my office and eat it, you know, like, so is there ever a time, in your opinion, because I know others would say yes, but I'm interested in your opinion, is there ever a time when you have to say, you know what, this is an addiction and this is something that I can't balance in my life, and that doesn't mean I'm flawed, that doesn't mean, you know, I've failed, but I'm recognizing this within myself and I'm going to cut out X amount of types of processed sugar? Do you think that's healthy, or do you think that's just kind of inadvertently setting yourself up for failure?
Wow. And that's a loaded question too. Most people in my field, the research doesn't support that there is such a thing as a sugar addiction. Now, there are some people, because we all have different genetics and the different neural pathways, the different parts of your brain that light up in addictive processes, for example, alcohol or drugs, they're different. Dr. Kim Dennis did a presentation at a webinar this year at the symposium on how can you tell if it's a food addiction and or not. And I would say the vast majority in my field don't believe that that is true or possible, simply because we convert people from being quote sugar addicts to not to being able to look at the Hershey bar on the way out, or the ice cream or the cookies or whatever, and truly eat it and get enough of it, whether it's one or two. It's not this preconceived idea. And the more that you of what's right or okay, and the more that you can do that and just look at it on an equal playing field, it doesn't call to you anymore. So yes, there are parts of the brain that light up. And so the dopamine is actually a learning neurotransmitter. So let's put it into alcohol, that because of the marketing around alcohol, it shows people having fun. It shows them being, and I'm actually talking about Annie Grace, who I've been listening to her podcast a little bit. It's called The Naked Mind, but she talks about alcohol being a poison. It is not something that our body needs biologically, like sugar is. Our body needs sugar. And so the dopamine actually lights up to help remind yourself that you're seeing people having fun, that if you engage in drinking, that you're going to be the life of the party, or whatever it is, whatever's in your head that it is. And so dopamine can light up when somebody thinks about a cupcake or cookies or a Hershey bar or ice cream. And it's that teaching part that says you are going to have enjoyment because you shouldn't have this. It's almost forbidden. Or you get a sugar rush, but sugar rush almost always brings people down afterwards. And so when I talk about kind of recovering sugar addicts, it's because we listen to what happens. Let's say you grab the 6-pack of Hershey bars and you devour that. It's really it's looking at curiosity and compassion. Like, wow, that was interesting, without judgment, not a single bit of judgment. This is what happened. This is what I did. And wow, yeah, maybe I was stressed, or maybe I really didn't have enough carbs today, or maybe I over-exercised for what I needed, or maybe this past week, or maybe the past year I've been dieting and my body is still weight suppressed, even no matter what that number is, because there's a whole nother podcast on atypical anorexia, which is anorexia nervosa in larger bodies. So this is irregardless of body size. is starting to pay attention to, how do I feel when this happens? Let's look at it with curiosity and put our theory cap on and look together at, well, yeah. Well, first of all, the marketing is right there. There's candy bars at every aisle.
I know. They get you, man. They get
I
you.
know they do. They're smart. And like things like ice cream, people will do things like a Halo Top or other quote unquote healthier ice creams. And if you're going to binge on it, what difference does it make that it's going to be healthier or not? It maybe if you feel good eating it, that it feels healthier to you, then you would eat less. But it's all an experiment. Some people don't. They eat. I had someone binge on dry oatmeal.
Oh,
Bottom
my.
line is, she claimed that she was a vegan, and she claimed that it was for reasons that were more honorable than a disordered eating pattern. And that's all that was in her house, because that's all she would leave. And she wasn't enjoying that. She wasn't enjoying that. So that's where the food diary can come in too, is like, I really enjoy this. I'm going to, intuitive eating says choose the foods that you like, that you actually, if you're in the mood for sweet, creamy, crunchy, salty, cold, hot, whatever, that you actually listen to what you want. You eat what it is until you're satisfied, and sometimes beyond. And if you find yourself swinging back, it's check your judgment in your head. Like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have. That's where the addictive thoughts happen, is that I shouldn't. And then that increases that dopamine. Like, it's a learning process. Like, yeah, you did wrong.
That's pretty interesting. And again, it's just crazy because with the addiction aspect, I guess you're saying the stats show that's not actually an addiction, but it's just crazy how much the mind can have a play on that. And I remember one time I went to an AA meeting with a friend of mine who wanted me to go with him and support him. And of course I went, and I'm like, I'm just here for you. My brain, I'm thinking this, like, this has nothing to do with me. And then, like, as I'm sitting through the meeting, people are talking and sharing their stories, and I'm like resonating with some of these alcoholics, but with sweets and with sugar. And like, that's why intuitive eating just scares me so much. And it's not that I think it's bad. I think it's incredible. Like, if I could just snap my fingers and be like, I intuitive eat, I would be snapping right now like crazy, like, I feel like, how many of these do I got to do so I'm intuitive eating, like, I'll snap all day. But it just scares me, because it's like, I don't trust myself enough right now to do that, to just be like, I'm going to have one cookie from Chick-fil-A. Because how do you just eat one Chick-fil-A cookie? They're so good. And then there's those people who are like, and I wish I can be them, they're like, oh, that's too sweet for me. Oh my, it's too rich. And I'm just like, no, dude, I want my eyes to tear up when I eat this. It's good.
Yep. And you're either someone who likes the cookies with the icing on it, or the cake and the icing. And some of my clients are like, I like the icing only.
Wow.
It's that really sweet part. So it is scary. It is hugely scary. And there's no wrong way to approach it. If you feel more comfortable resonating with, because then there's OA, the Overeaters Anonymous, which I've unfortunately picked up the pieces from some of that for some of my clients, but I have one in particular who has recovered from her substance use for over 5 years and goes to OA, and she's able to be moderate around it. There's a book in Overeaters Anonymous that, depending on your sponsor and how things, if you take it too far, then you can find yourself in that diet mentality, which increases binging. And so it really is whatever your comfort level. But our body actually requires sugar. So it's different from substances where you could say, no, I don't need this in my life. And in a similar way to that, the Naked Mind podcast that I was referring to is really looking at the way that food is marketed to us. It is good, bad, healthy, unhealthy. Intuitive eating, most of the time people say, well, then I'm just going to end up eating donuts all day long. Like that's really what's going to happen. And it's never true. It's
Right.
never true because you do that long enough and you realize, well, you mentioned even the Fiber One bars. Like, I don't think you're going to want to go back to that particular like eating type just because of the way that you felt when you did it. You said it
Right.
wasn't real food. It was restricted in terms of calories because you were making sure to stay under. And was it 1,200, did you say?
At that particular time, I don't fully remember, probably 1,200. Some days I would only eat 800. I think I had a day or two where it was 600
Oh my gosh.
only.
And
That was just,
yeah.
and it's not enough. I look back now, I'm like, what the heck? But MyFitnessPal also will tell you if I eat like this every day in 5 weeks, I will weigh 100 and what? 40? 100 and what? 50?
Yeah.
I'm already naturally just heavier, you know, like not like, I don't know, like I already weigh more than people would think. Like I weigh right now like 170 pounds,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just like I've always just weighed more, you know, like I don't know. So I don't know why I just started talking about that. But because I would be like, oh, if I eat this way for 4 weeks, what? I'll drop like this many pounds and screw it. What about 800 calories? Let's just do 800, like, you know, so horrible.
Yeah. And you and about probably the rest of our culture are the same way. And it's a lure. And of course, people are going to try it. And most people find it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Here's the thing about 1,200 calories. For some reason, that was the number that was thrown out years ago as the minimum number that people needed. And so if you're going to try to lose weight, stay around 1,200 calories. And then like you, so many people say, well, that's not working, so I'm going to decrease more. And that's not working, so I'm going to decrease more. And then your metabolism slows down. It hibernates like a bear in the winter. It's not getting enough. It needs to really conserve the heart beating and the things that take energy. So then people find themselves cold or lack of focus, kind of irritable or grumpy, sometimes a bad breath because of the ketone bodies that are in the, So less than 1,200, literally, if you measured someone's calorie output, if they were laying in bed all day in a hospital bed, they're burning that much. So for those of us who are out and around and living our life freely, and sometimes adding exercise on top of that, you need a lot more than that.
Yeah. And not to be obnoxious here, but I have one more question about the cutting out the sugar.
Okay.
So this is just because like I'm so curious about this, and I've read so many different articles on this, and I just want to like really get the best understanding that I possibly can and give that to anyone who might be in the same boat as me. So you say, of course, like we need sugar to live. Could someone then say like, then I'm going to give myself tons of fruit and honey but cut out processed sugar? I guess when I say cut out sugar, I should have clarified. I mean more like, could it ever get to the point where you need to say, I'm cutting out processed sugar, but if I want watermelon, if I want cantaloupe, if I want to eat 2 cups of grapes today and a banana with honey on Ezekiel bread with peanut butter, then I'm doing it. Like, is that okay? Or is that still not smart?
So you're giving your body what it needs because it's got sugar in it, fruit sugar, which then converts to glucose and feeds the brain and all your muscles, your heart, your liver, your lungs, everything that has to do in your body, all the processes. The interesting thing about that is a cookie, by the time it reaches your bloodstream, looks just like fruit. You've got, there's some fat in it. So it might be like fruit and a handful of nuts. Because when you eat something like that, and there was a famous one, my friend Tammy Beasley, who's a registered dietitian, had steel cut oats and jelly beans in a meme. And, which one's better for you? Well, it's C6H12O6, which is a carbohydrate molecule. And by the time you eat it and you digest it and it gets to your bloodstream, it's exactly the same fuel source for your brain, your muscles, everything else. So the danger, and of course, yes, you're fueling your body. If you never have sweets, ice cream like cane sugar, which also comes from a plant, but it's more concentrated, or if you're still fueling your body. My concern lies more in the I can't, I shouldn't, it's good, it's bad, it's healthy, it's unhealthy.
Mm.
And that it's okay. It's okay to, there's not even any forgiveness that has to happen for having something with pure sugar in it. It's a pleasurable food. And if it turns into a lot more than you intended, then that's a curiosity. Let's just take a look at that with compassion, without judgment. This happened. Why did this happen? I'm so curious about this. I'm not mad at myself anymore. And once we move through those processes, sugar does not feel addictive to people.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So how long have you noticed with people does it take to kind of get from point A of this is good, bad, healthy, unhealthy to point B of grace, objectivity? Because I feel like this would be a process, and by your look on your face, I think you're agreeing with that.
Oh man, I'm gonna say months to years, and it
Woo!
really everyone starts at different places, and a lot of people have heard of intuitive eating, and I had a client recently this summer, a new one that came in with the workbook in her lap, and I told her, I said, we can go through the principles in here, and she said, well, I haven't read any of it yet, and I said, how come? She said, because I'm afraid you're going to take away my, I don't remember, cookies. I forget. I think it was apple. Actually, it was, oh no, no, she said, sorry, I'm afraid you're going to make me eat an apple when I really want a candy bar. And I said, well, then you're in the right place, because if you're craving a candy bar, eating an apple, like I had another client who had said, well, when I crave something sweet, I'm just going to eat an apple. And she ended up with 14 plus apples a day.
Oh Lord,
So,
I'd
right,
be so
that's
sick of apples.
not it's not balanced. And
Yeah.
that's why the banana and hot dog diet worked, because that's what you could have as much as you wanted of it, and you get so sick of it that you can't even think about eating it again.
Yeah, sometimes I've noticed that I want sugar so bad, but I'm not letting myself have it. So I'll just eat way bigger portions than normal, trying to fill the void of me just freaking wanting an Oreo
Yep.
shake.
Exactly. Exactly. And then we talk about like an Oreo shake, or even like a latte or a mocha or something. And I see people getting these venti, the extra larges, and it's because they feel like they're never going to get it again, and so they get that
Yeah.
large. Yeah. And so what would it be like to get a concrete or a shake, and get whatever size you want, and really truly, usually the first 7 bites of something are the most flavorful.
Mm-hmm.
And the neurobiology workshop I attended that Leah Graves did this summer talked about when people are binging, they're trying to find where the yumminess went. And I'm saying this in quotes because that was her quote. It was a neurobiology, neuronutrition workshop about when somebody moves past the flavor profile, because so many times people will say, I didn't even really taste it, or I didn't really enjoy it, or I found myself just like not, this is what I wanted. But so bottom line is, continuing to eat or continuing to add things to it just to find where that yumminess went isn't the answer.
Yeah, I kind of look at it sometimes like chasing the dragon, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
Like I'll be like, sometimes even before one thing that will stop me sometimes from eating ice cream when I can feel like an itchy binge coming on is I'll say, Evangeline, as soon as you get done eating this, it won't be enough, and you'll want more, and then
Oh,
you'll want more, and
yes.
then like I just tell myself, like, or sometimes I'll like it takes me 5 minutes to eat this, and in those 5 minutes it'll be gone. And then I'll still be like, okay, what's next? What's next? And I
Yeah.
just kind of tell myself like, okay, I'm putting off the instant gratification for long-term happiness or long-term benefits that are going to last more and be better for me when it comes to,
Yeah.
putting off a binge or whatever.
Yeah. And so I kind of call those they're like messages in your head. We can't help those messages, but I kind of call it like a bully that's in
Mm.
there that's telling you you're doing things wrong, that you can't possibly do this. Like if you start, you're never going to stop.
Mm.
It's really putting you down.
Right.
And of course, it's hard if you're not feeling, and I could do like a whole podcast on the tank A and tank B as well, the emotional and physical needs.
Yeah.
As far as food, but when those comments come into your head from the bully that says you're going to do it anyway, it's just knocking down your confidence. And I have people name that. They have different names for, like, some people it's a color or a darkness, and some people it actually has a name or a shape. It's just
Hmm.
but not everyone can or does, but I'm just calling it those voices that are kind of the bully in your head that tell you you're not enough, you don't look good enough, you don't eat right, you can't do it, you're weak, you're whatever it is that's going in there. That only perpetuates the eating.
Yeah. That's so true. And I know, what time was your meeting that you said it was at?
It's in 9 minutes.
9 minutes. Okay. So,
Mhm.
um, well, okay. So jumping forward, I know I did want to touch a little bit today on understanding where your, like, what it is inside of you or your past or your life that is causing you to want to binge or not eat, or because for me it's binging, but I know for other people it's not eating and avoiding food. Are there any ways that you could recommend people to kind of help shine a light? Because some people don't even know. They don't even
Yeah.
really know what is it? What is the point? Am I just like this? Am I genetically predisposed? Do you
Mhm.
have any quick tips on that?
Yeah, I do. So one of the things that I'm really grateful for that we've had research when I first started in this field, we thought it had to do with control and maybe controlling parents or controlling whatever. Thankfully, we know that now about 85% of it is genetic, which is truly fascinating. It can take away the shame that some people feel that maybe grandma or great grandma or grandpa or uncle or somebody also was struggling with this. And then adding diet culture. So there's some really good podcasts that can help people understand what diet culture is.
Hmm.
Um, and one is Food Psych by Christy Harrison, and then there's several others, but I don't want to like spend too much time there. But Dietitians Unplugged is for professionals, but it talks about health at every size, which is huge and a big movement. So how do you know what it is? Do you go back in when I always ask people when I'm doing their initial assessment, when did you first notice that you had concerns about your eating or your body? And I don't know, do you have a guess what might be the most common in my experience of ages that people are aware that they're not doing as well as they feel they should be with food and eating and their weight?
I'd say college or high school.
Okay. 8 years old.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Oh.
3rd grade. I mean, that's kind of it's so interesting because we live in this world where so not to blame anyone, but in our culture, if you historically you would look at women's bodies and they were the most rounded bodies were the ones that were the highly revered bodies type because you had money and you could eat. And then in the 60s, we had Twiggy come into the play, and that was the waif-like look. And I think today it's more of the fit, like strong picture. But what if your body doesn't fit into that ideal? And so we tend to judge, like you used the word comparing earlier, and we can compare ourselves to other people, but our culture is just a big part of it. So one example, a child was telling me that, well, my mommy she weighs all of her food and measures it. And so she's noticing that. And then this mom didn't even realize that as they were driving to the mall, she would say, oh, that person needs to exercise and that person. So at a young age, we start to, or
Absorb.
Well, yes, or make comments about their own bodies, parents or adults in a child's life about their own bodies. With Thanksgiving being tomorrow, I had a client say, yeah, Grandpa said, are you going to eat that cake? Because you need to watch your figure.
Oh
These comments become
gosh.
ingrained at early ages and different for different people. Like you thought maybe high school, college. That's great if that's the first time somebody actually notices or thinks back to their disordered eating patterns or thoughts.
Yeah, and now that you do say something, like I do have memories from when I was, in middle school or younger, to where I'd get comments or I'd hear things, or I have memories of, like, God love him, but my dad always, focused on his body and the gym and weighing himself constantly, and you know, eating a whole pint of ice or a whole carton, whatever. I think this is whole pint of ice cream every weekend. Like, that was his thing. He would
Yeah,
eat healthy, super, super strict all week. And every weekend he would eat an entire
yeah,
Rocky Road. And that was Dad's ice cream. Mom and Billy, don't touch it. That's Dad's ice cream.
yeah. You
Like,
come from it honestly. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, if that was if eating was something to be careful, really, really careful about, then you have absorbed some of that.
Oh, for sure. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. My mom says my dad still feels bad today because he said to her, like, he sees how the way he's focused on calories in the gym and his weight has impacted the way that I see calories in the
Mhm.
gym. And again, like, that's one of those things that, when I go home to see my parents, I see some of those things so much more clearly now, and how they unfolded the way that they did. And I think, just the time away from home, and that, not to sound bad, it sounds so horrible. Like, I love my parents from the bottom of my heart. Like, and nothing they ever did was intentional, or like, they were just living their lives and being incredible parents in so many ways. But anyway, the
Yeah.
time apart did, though, like, one aspect I think that helped me to grow so much in my relationship with food is the time apart, and kind of
Mhm.
on my own being able to realize things and see things and eat differently. So, you know,
Absolutely. I know we talked about this beforehand, and I always consider my parents, especially my mom, to be just a gentle, loving, wonderful, humble human being, a servant, and just as I became an adult, really realizing she was making some of those comments about people. And I never felt like that came from my house, but obviously I grew up with it. So I'm not blaming, I don't,
oh
love,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I think you know
Yes.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
of course. Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I think I mentioned to you last time we were on the phone, and I'm about to let you go here, but um, you know, with anything so enormous as a task of raising a human being, like, there's going to be small pockets and areas where things could have, quote, been done differently, and gone about from a different perspective. But, like, you're raising a human being. Like, I'm going to do things one day as a parent that my kid's going to look back on and think, why did she do X, Y, and Z? I didn't
Mhm.
like this or that. It impacted me in this negative way, and it sucks. And I'm not trying to, like, set
Mhm.
myself up for failure, but I'm also a realist, and I know that there's no such thing as the perfect upbringing.
Yes.
There's no
And
such thing.
oh, so resources for parents who are concerned, because I've had just in the past 3 months, I've had two parents of young children say, "Can you meet with me because I want to make sure that I'm raising my child in a healthy
Mm.
eating environment." Or they're sending their kid to school, their kindergartner, with a slim fast for lunch. Things that. So the division of responsibility from Ellen Satter, Ellyn Satter, from the Ellen Satter Institute, is a great way to raise healthy eaters.
Mm, that's interesting, and that's a whole nother beast. But
Okay.
before you head off, what are some avenues people can use to get a hold of you and your work if they'd like to hear more
Oh,
about what you do and the
awesome.
resources you have?
Sure. My website is bethharrell.com. So it's BETHHARRELL.com. And from there, you can contact me or just look at my services, look at the different presentations that I've done. Um, And the interest that I have, I love to teach. I love to train. I love to hear people's stories, and I love to see them get on that other side of intuitive eating, of being scared of it and then finally embracing it and understanding there is freedom and peace around sugar, around food in general.
That sounds nice. Freedom and peace around food and sugar in general. That sounds like utopia world over there. Well,
yeah, it's possible.
It's possible. I'll take your word for it, and I'll try and make those steps based off what we talked about today, and hopefully some of the people listening feel more confident or feel more like that's a possibility for them as well. But thank you again for having, or I almost said for having me on. Thanks for having me on my show.
Yes, and it was nice to meet you.
Well, there's another episode 7, and I think I have a name for this one. Maybe I'll say something like Finding Balance with Food and Dumping Diet Culture. I don't know. I'll see if I stick with that or not. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. As per usual, I will add some links that were discussed at the bottom in the description box. If you care to subscribe, stick around, have some tea, listen to some more episodes, relax, kick back, or maybe play this while you're going for a jog. I don't know. Just do it. Do you. Listen to some more if you'd like. I'd like that. And I'm using hand gestures right now. Don't know why. No one can see me, and I'm alone in my bedroom at midnight editing this. But yeah. And if you've been keeping up with every episode every week, this is being published late, and I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I genuinely really do appreciate it. Okay, and that's all, I guess. Hope you enjoyed it and you feel motivated and inspired. As always, my email and contact information is also below. Send me some topics that you're interested in hearing, and I will do my best to reach out to someone to talk on those things with me. Okay, and have a good day. Bye.